right? Yeah, it's a fear of drowning. Definitely. Eventually you'd have to breathe, and then the water would get into your lungs. Once that happens, your body won't be able to get oxygen anymore, and you'll start to feel that floaty feeling as you pass out. Finally, Junpei understood. He understood what June was trying to say and why she was so scared. Yeah, you're right. You wouldn't last very long. See? She was afraid that that only elevator button pointed down. That meant, of course, that the elevator couldn't go any higher than the floor they were on. As he thought about it, Junpei realized he hadn't seen elevator A on the A or B decks near the central staircase. All of which meant that the elevator could only convey them to lower decks. And the floor below the one they were on, D deck, should be completely submerged. Guys, you should type !donate and see if we can get, June and Junpei to get some time with themselves. But you should donate and see if we can get that to happen. Such an innuendo, much sexual joke. Yep, that meant... Hey, wait a minute. This elevator came up from somewhere under us, right? Well, yeah, yes it did. It didn't open right away after you pressed the button. There was a motor noise, like it was moving, and then it opened. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So take a look inside. Junpei jerked his head towards the interior of the elevator. It's not wet at all, is it? The walls and even the floor are totally dry. Oh, you're right. They are. Please, I've heard too many innuendos due to my family. Oh my god. Family playing Ka is too much for me. I can't. She looked around the elevator, slightly embarrassed. Well, let's test it. Test it? Yeah, watch this. Junpei put one foot in the elevator and bent around the corner of the door until he could see the floor button. There were only two, E and C. He pushed the E button and jumped out of the elevator. Door slid shut, and they heard the grinding of the motor as the elevator car moved down. A few moments, they heard the sound of the elevator door grinding open several floors below them. Oh my god. I don't want to play Ka with my family. Like, I actually think I am the most innocent of them all, and that's not saying much. Junpei, actually, that's saying a lot about my family and not me. Or about me and my family. Junpei nodded to June and pressed the elevator button again. A few moments later, the elevator returned. The door slid open, and as Junpei had expected, there was no water to be found. See? You plus innocence, you playing Honey Pop 3 times. Again, I think I'm the most innocent one in my family. And I'm not that innocent. I did play Honey Pop 3 times. And a couple more by myself, but that's besides the point. Junpei couldn't resist puffing out his chest just a little bit. June, however, still looked confused. What does that mean? How can E deck be safe if the D deck is full of water? Well, here's what I think. The elevator shaft in the E deck must be watertight and separated from wherever the ship's been punctured. Here, let me show you. He pulled out his notebook and pen and sketched out a rough illustration. My back actually hurts a bit. Anyway, I see. So is this why the ship hasn't sunk? The shape of the inside keeps it from all filling with water. Because I can't speak. Yeah, I think that's what's going on. Junpei continued to talk as he closed the notebook and slipped it back into his pocket. I'm gonna go down and check it out. You stay here, alright? But come on, just do it, alright? He gave June's shoulder a reassuring squeeze and then hopped into the elevator. He pushed the E button, and the door began to close. June looked worried, her eyes darting back and forth as if she was trying to make a decision, when suddenly... "I'm coming with you." "Huh?" At the last possible moment, June dashed forward, turning sideways, just in time to slip through the gap between the closing doors. Junpei jammed his finger against the open door button, but it was too late. The door had shut, he and June were in the elevator, but it was headed down to E deck. He was so surprised by June that he didn't even have time to think about what awaited him in the E deck. The elevator stopped and the door slid open. They stepped off onto the floor outside the elevator. Nothing seemed specially unusual. No fish going about their fishy business or jellyfish floating lazily through the water. There was, however, a blowfish, or at least something that looked very much like one. June's cheeks were puffed out, and her mouth tiny, intense frown. Oh, knock it off. It's just like I thought. This part hasn't flooded. Come on, just look around. There's no water here. June looked around nervously, then exhaled. You're right. It's not flooded at all. See? But then there's a whole lot of water, right on top of us. What's going to happen if the ceiling breaks? Junpei thought about that for a moment. Well, we'd probably get really wet up there. Huh? At any rate, we should probably go back as soon as we can, once we're done looking around here. Lotus and Santa might already be back. Okay, good idea. Junpei glanced around the room they found themselves in. The first thing he noticed was a set of thick iron bars. They ran the length of the room, separating the left elevator from the right one. Well, we can't go over there. Right. Then perhaps... In the corner of the room that housed the elevators, Junpei found an opening. He walked up to it and stuck his head around the corner. A long, straight hallway stretched out in front of him. The door at the end of the hallway, there's something written on it. Yeah, let's go have a look. Junpei and June set off down the hallway at the brisk clip, somewhere between a run and a jog. Before long, they found themselves in the front of the door. On it was a number written in bright red paint. 6. I knew it. This is a numbered door. Indeed, there was a red bolted to the wall right next to the door. Of course, with only 2 people, there wasn't much they could do with it. All right, let's head back. Yes. Junpei and June turned headed back to C deck. On their way back, Junpei noticed a map on the wall. As it turned out, it was a burnt map of the ship's interior for E deck. Huh? So you guys found door 1. They met back up with Santa and Lotus, who had explained what they'd found. Apparently, there was another numbered door on A deck, just like the one on E deck, beyond the door that the Earth key opened. According to Santa and Lotus, there was a 1 on the door. All told, they had discovered 2 new doors, the door 6 and the 1 door. This is interesting. The E deck wasn't flooded. Lotus was quiet for a moment, lost in thought. Well, we don't really know if all of E deck is safe. We only checked the area around the elevator. Even so, it's still very interesting. You said the 6th door was there, right? Yes. Then that means Zero planned all of this out, even the sinking. That would have meant some pretty serious remodeling of the ship's interior. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it. Yeah. I wonder how long it took. I can't even imagine how much it must have cost. It wouldn't have been a ton, that's for sure. Well, that does go along with what Ace was saying. The most reasonable explanation would be that this was done by some organization, which with access to a whole lot of cash. Yes, it does make sense. The thought made them all go quiet for a moment. June bit her lip while Lotus sighed softly to herself, and Santa cracked a stiff neck and stared off into the distance at nothing. I don't think it's a very good idea to stay here. Jun looked at Junpei with the large pleading eyes. Yeah, you're right. Ace and his team might be back already. Well, Junpei and I should be able to open door 1. Huh? You guys leaving me behind? 8 plus 6 plus 5 is 19, 1 plus 9 is 10, and 1 plus 0 is 1. Just kidding. Alright, let's go. Lotus words were all impetus they needed. Well, the impetus they needed. Back to the large hospital room they went. That door animation is fantastic. The moment they stepped inside, a tremendous voice echoed across the room. Hey, where the hell did you guys go? It was 7. Ace was right behind him, and Clover was behind Ace, although she seemed to be hanging back. It looked as though there were something strange about them. 7 had the look of a man who'd seen a ghost. Ace was just as pale, and Clover looked as though she was only moments from passing out entirely. For a long moment, they simply stood there, looking at one another. Junpei looked around nervously, waiting for someone else to speak. No one did. He looked at 7. What happened? What the hell kind of question is that? 7 was trying very hard to be angry, but something had shaken him. Hard. His shoulders were trembling, and his voice was strained. Snake is... 7 couldn't finish. He just looked away, his face twisted by Junpei. Junpei wasn't sure what. Instead, Ace spoke. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and spoke. Snake is dead. He died, just as the 9th man did. It was as if all the air had suddenly been sucked out of the room. Junpei felt his heartbeat quicken, and he realized he was having trouble breathing. He could only feel cold sweat beading on his forehead and neck. June, Santa, and Lotus looked the way he felt. All 3 were frozen in place, their faces white. Oh my god, that's not true, is it? We should make sure. Yeah, right, we should. They nodded to one another and headed for the number 3 door. Wait, not that way. They stopped short and turned to look at 7. He was pointing at the door with no number. I stuck a screwdriver in there to keep the door from closing all the way. It's not locked, so you can go in that way. Where is he? The shower room on the left side of the hallway. Put a broom in there too to keep the door open. We can't get in without going through the numbered door, right? Yeah, that's right. Your new destination clear, Junpei and his companions headed for the door with no number. Once in the hallway, it was easy to spot the metal door on the left wall. It hadn't been open when they'd been through before, but now, just as 7 had said, there was a broom stuck between the door and the frame, keeping it open. They looked at it for a moment, then stepped inside. It smells horrible. Lotus wrinkled her nose and covered her mouth in disgust. Even Santa pinched his nose shut. Yeah, this is pretty awful. I feel like I'm gonna puke. It was just as bad as they said, perhaps worse. Hideous smell filled the air, so thick they could almost taste it. It was sour and smelled of fish, feces, and burned meat. It worked its way through Junpei's nose and down his throat to pound against the entrance of his stomach. He put his hands over his mouth and struggled to keep what little was in his stomach where it belonged. They didn't have to wonder where the body was. There was blood everywhere, a few arms of splatter reaching towards them as they walked through the door. All one had to do was follow the many radial arms to their source. The body itself was hidden behind the divider. June, you should stay here. But please, just do me a favor, okay? Alright? He didn't give her a chance to say no. He put his hand on her shoulder, as if to shove her into the ground like a tent pole turn, and walked towards the end of the